And hello there, drag racing fan. Monday Morning Racer in studio live right now between the slicks. And yes, we are live. You know how you can know that I'm live? Well, some have already commented earlier today, like Destroyer 1320, which Between the Slicks is brought to you by. So ready for this one, my favorite driver ever. And who is he talking about? Well, he is referring to, we are going to have later on, flight permitting, I do expect him, Lyle Barnett for the first time on Between the Slicks. I have interviewed Lyle on Competition Plus Power Hour, but we're going to have him here on Between the Slicks for the first time. But you know what? You can know that I'm live because I'm interacting with you. And that is the reason why you go live, so that you can interact with a fan base. And I find it disingenuous to have a live show and not interact with the fan base, not interact with the community, whether the community is positive or negative, just like Drag Racing Central saying MMR, hello to you, Drag Racing Central, just like Kenny Trent saying hello, MMR, hello, Kenny, how you doing? I find it disingenuous to say that you're live when you've taped it. If you've taped it, say that you have taped it and go live with that, which I have done that on this very show. There's been times, portions that I have taped an interview, and when those portions are aired, I inform you that even on a live show that this is a taped section. I will be in the comments, I will chat with you and still interact with you. And then, if you do not have the time to interact with the fan base live, like yo, American Hot Rod Entertainment, and then MMR, what's up, man? I'm doing great. Going Bracket Racing. How about this? How about get people to host it for that episode that can go live? Some of the greats in radio, like Rush Limbaugh, would have someone fill in. That's why if I cannot go live, the show doesn't happen. Or I'm getting someone like Darren Williams Jr. to host. I'm getting someone like Casey or George, if they would use StreamYard, to host. I'm getting someone like a Duchesne Bland to come host eventually and showcase other people that are talented that can talk about this sport. Use that opportunity and do not use the fan base just for an algorithm trip. This is all brought to you by Destroyer 1320. And when we come back, we're going to dive into drag racing for sure with you all live.
If you own a beautiful modern muscle car like this 1320 Challenger, I'm sure you don't want it stolen. Because the Challenger and many other modern vehicles have an easily accessible neutral release strap. That was your coin holder in your central console, and beneath that there's this red cord that someone can pop, put it in the neutral, and potentially easily steal your car. But at Destroyer1320.com, they have the TDS, Theft Deterrent System, which is a cover over that strap using factory mounting points so that you don't get popped by a thief. So make sure to go to Destroyer1320.com using promo code MMR for 15% off and get your Theft Deterrent System TDS and steal the thief's hope.
Well, we're going to get into a section of the show that I think I'm going to start calling the MMR Burn Down. And, well, that's going to be like the opinionated piece. I really haven't had a name for it. I might stick with Burn Down. Maybe you all can chime in whether you like that or not. Just later on, we've got the drag racing news, and we will get to that. I do want to mention Mike McConnell's comment here very quickly. Good evening from hot Texas. It's hot everywhere, brother. Glad to see John Lawson back out at Cordova. He's been through a lot the last 2 years. Yes, sir, he has been. What a beautiful funny car he does have now, and first time out with it, first time to Funny Car Chaos after a devastating fire that he lost nearly everything in his shop, including whole race cars, collector cars, parts, and pieces. But He had a good showing at Cordova for the Summer Nationals, and we're going to talk about that event later on. I was able to talk with him, did get him on camera, so a portion of his story was on the Flow stream, and you will definitely find it later once Cordova Behind the Chaos comes out on the Funny Car Chaos YouTube channel. Well, speaking of that event, I find it fascinating that the only event that I know of last weekend in the world of drag racing, and admittedly I'm biased, I'm the pit reporter for Funny Car Chaos. I'm wearing the event tee here right now. I was there. Chris Graves pays me. Yes, that's true, but he's not paying me to say this. I find it fascinating that the actual history setting event last weekend, which was the Summer Nationals at Cordova presenting Funny Car Chaos, the first time ever in drag racing history. And I'm not saying it on my word. I'm saying it from the confirmation of Brett Kepner. Go argue with him if you don't think it was historical and set so. There's no coverage of it hardly. CompetitionPlus.com, no articles. DragIllustrated.com, no articles. Dragzine.com, no articles. Nostalgia Drag World may be one of the only websites that have covered it, or MMR sharing a reel or two. Funny Car Chaos with its own promotions. And yet you had something that had not happened in the 60, 70 plus years of drag racing history, that jet-powered, turbine-powered floppers faced off in competition, not just match racing. No. Running elimination style for the money against their piston-powered brethren. Last weekend, we burned nitromethane, methanol, and kerosene. Only other thing we needed was diesel, and maybe that will happen one day and we truly have a historical event. But all of these other brands, not a word. Why is that? I understand the NHRA is the big show in town, but I don't have to read an article about another LS swap when there was actually a historical event that occurred in the world of drag racing as a whole, a true first. It doesn't happen that often anymore. Where's the coverage? I hope that changes. I hope I start seeing some articles on Competition Plus, Drag Illustrated, Dragzine, and elsewhere, and not just my little itty-bitty platform and Funny Car Chaos itself sharing anything. Going Bracket Racing asks, was that a live streamed event? Yes, every Chaos event, Nitro Chaos and Funny Car Chaos, is streamed on Flow Racing. And then you can also, at least once per weekend, there will be a stream on the Funny Car Chaos YouTube channel as well for one of the qualifying sessions. So yes, it was a streamed event. But I just have to wonder, is it because palms are being greased, or there's favors being done for one another, or what? Why is there no mentioning of nitro burners, methanol burners, and kerosene burners, the jets, all racing against each other? And with that being said, I'm going to show you some footage of just how cool that event was, because it was spectacular and a dream come true to finally see all of these funny cars come together and battle it out. And ladies and gentlemen, it was spectacular in the sense that,
well, we got a jet funny car that's about to light up, going to go up against Jordan Ballou, a methanol
in the B field
burning machine. Oh, winding up.
about to see dry hop. They are very interesting jet money cars. They will literally sing a song with a burner pump, and they've got LED like panels behind the car that are supposed to bright as light up. Round one, we had two jet money cars in the past that are their piston-powered brethren. Did have an elimination right here as you can see, jet versus jet. Coming very shortly in the really strong final round one. Brutus methanol burner money car versus black Corolla jet. Piston-powered guys did prevail. That's true, but everybody who said that it could not be done, Chris Graves, once again, has proved that it can be done. Now, how was it done? Well, the Jets never had lane choice because it doesn't matter what lane they're in. The other cars are traction-based, not thrust-based, and therefore, being whatever lane, whether it's comfort or that lane is actually better than the other one or not, that does factor in. So the piston-powered cars always had lane choice. Beyond that, there's not much different for running a jet car than running any other car. And for anyone out there that, they put a film on the track, or they're leakers, or you're going to have an issue of running behind them if you choose that lane, well, I don't think it's no different than a nitro burner leaking oil or a methanol burner leaking oil or any other fluid, and they do that. The crew at Cordova did a stellar job. Track was good. I've never heard any complaints about that. And we come away from that event, a historical event, a true first. And the jet guys were excited about it. The piston-powered guys were excited about it. And you had Cordova, which apparently has been on a downward trajectory. They had their Summer Nationals, brought that back to life, a defunct name in their portfolio of events. And leaving from that track, the promoters, the owners, and the people attending, it has all been positive. They're like, Cordova is back, and they feel like it's on now the upward trajectory. That's what Chaos is doing. Now, let's talk a little bit of NHRA and the game. The game dropped. Actually, the game dropping, I caught it on Twitter. So Drag Racing Central actually retweeted something. I saw it, and no one had really played it up, if you will. So I went to Best Buy. I grabbed a screenshot, and before anything was out there in a major fashion, I actually posted a screenshot of the cover of the game, in particular the PS4 version. And for me, it went batty. It got like 300. It reached 300,000 people and has over 500 likes and 1,000 shares or something like that. So one, that tells you that the game is a big deal. Whether people are positive about it or negative about it, they are talking about NHRA drag racing and the electronic version in the game itself. And at this time, I'm going to play the trailer, and then we're going to take the time to walk back through and see some screenshots and break down what the trailer shows. And I'm going to try to do that differently than what many other people. A lot of folks are pointing out particular things in the graphics or the errors that are in this trailer. And I think I've got a little bit more of a balanced approach, but ultimately, I think what this trailer speaks to is a shift in the thinking and the demeanor of the NHRA. Now, as this trailer is playing, I do want to make note that the music, I do find it a little strange. Like, it's talking about your mama's baby and baby's mama and the trailer. Hell yeah. Just keep saying it over and over. I find that very fascinating that they would choose racing gets stuck in this moniker of like always coming back to these redneck guys, and especially not drag racing. Business women functioning and operating in this sport that are highly intelligent to figure out all that they have from the sportsman divisions all the way up to the professional category. First look at it. One, I think it does look very good graphically. Now, start nitpicking, start really taking a detailed look, and you will begin to notice that there are some errors. And if you're going to be a purist, you're going to have issues with at least what we saw in the trailer. Now, mind you, a trailer may not always represent the finished product. We know that with movies. How many times have you seen a trailer? You go to the movie and you're like, oh, wow, I didn't expect that. Where'd that come from? You even have people creating trailers to have us be misdirected. Now, I don't think that's in the case of the game, but they might have very well compiled this trailer and they still have a lot of work to do before a rollout and before print. It's possible. Or they could have grabbed these before they were actually finished. So keep that in mind with something like a trailer to hit a release date and to have an announcement. What are some of those that purists and even myself notice? Well, header flames during the daytime. That's not always the case, and they're not that bright. That's an issue. Every Top Fuel car was a canopy car. Well, obviously, that is not the case in NHRA drag racing. So that is inaccurate. You had the revving of a nitro car, like full blast, almost as if they were a methanol funny car. That is not what happens. They're set at a particular idle, and they're setting at that idle until they smash the loud pedal. Now, that's not always the case for every nitro car. You go to the nostalgia ranks, some nitro cars, actually the driver does rev up to some extent. I saw that with the Dale Worsham tune car and Matt Bynum there at Odessa when they were competing in the Funny Car Chaos race in West Texas. So other people went on to nitpick a few things about the scoreboards, or let me bring up some screenshots that will definitely show what we're talking about, what we need to recognize in this, because I think there's a lot of positives actually over the negatives that we have right now. So let me find these screenshots and we will walk through the game itself and see, I think, a lot more positive than negatives. And I think we've got a product that in the future we can, well, I'll say, be satisfied with. Maybe it's not the greatest game ever, but I think we can be satisfied with it. Something that I have noticed is, unlike other games, when it comes to getting tracks right, I think they're doing a good job with, you can tell what track you're at. This is clearly ZMAX Dragway. And oftentimes, maybe not a white tent, but there usually is some type of canopy off over this lane, and you can clearly see the towers. They've got the trees. You can clearly see the grandstands. This is clearly ZMAX Dragway. And I think they have done a good job in rendering the tracks. I saw some early footage that was shown to me by Brian Loans of Epping. And when he brought the footage up, the first thing I said was, wow, that's Epping. And it was undeniable that it was Epping. He didn't even have to tell me it was Epping. It was one of those situations where if you've been to the tracks, you are going to know what track it is. And I think that's good for the game and for brand identity and people recognizing the facilities that we race at. We've got some iconic facilities. People should recognize them, I think. And there's a lot of examples that I'm going to pull of the brand identity making sense and working in the game. All right. Another example. This is clearly Maple Grove. You got the trees clustered down there in the shutdown area, and Maple Grove has these billboards on top of the grandstand on both sides going down. This is clearly Maple Grove. This screenshot, this is clearly Indianapolis. We continue. This is clearly Bandimere. They've got the terrain right. You're on the mountain. There's other screenshots that I'm not going to show, but you can clearly see that it's Bristol. This is Virginia Motorsports Park. It has a distinct tower with like that one wing off to the side, but not the other. You got the hill on the north side here, and then the one side with grandstands. The only thing they got to fix with this is the sun is at the wrong position, unless this is extremely early in the day, because it sets on the other side. So another nitpick that people had that I do think they need to work on is the parachutes. The parachutes need to be toned down. They need, I hope they are able to do something before it goes to print, if you will, because the parachutes are absolutely ridiculous. They look like something out of the 60s or what the jet cars used to use, and there's 2 of them. So I do hope they're able to work out the parachutes. There are little issues. I think overall, we're going to have a game that we can have fun with, that can allow people to immerse themselves into NHRA drag racing to some extent on electronic format. Notice, I don't think I have read anywhere where this game states that it is a simulation. I hope we do not have an arcade game, but I'm not expecting a simulation. Okay? I'm not expecting a simulation. Why do I expect that? Well, one reason is this class. This is showing more than likely the super modified class, which is often how it's listed. If you look at the bios and you look at the, what the game is going to have on other websites. Well, obviously this looks like super stock or looks like factory stock, and I think it's going to be a hybrid of those type of classes, because Constant Aviation is in the game. They're actually in the trailer, and they're on a billboard. So I expect this to be like Constant Aviation super modified, and it be a cross between super stock and factory stock, and a hybrid, able to customize, yet it's a sportsman-esque class to get you introduced in the drag racing in whatever type of career mode this game is going to have. And then you actually do have Pro Modified, you have Pro Stock, Funny Car, and Top Fuel. Moving on, beyond the little issues that they're going to have to work out, that I hope they do work out, that maybe some areas we're going to have to overlook, there are interesting images within the trailer that Josh says that the parachutes have already been corrected. Good. And again, remember, a trailer, you never know what may be and what we're going to actually have as a finished product. Here's another screenshot of something that they're definitely going to have to work out. So right here, look where these cars are. Off to the left, you've got that slanted board in front of the triangular display board. Well, that slanted board and that podium, that's where the tree usually sits. So what are we seeing? We're seeing in the trailer an early production piece that's not finished. And I think people have to realize that. But obviously, these people are way too far ahead of where the cars would start, and it is unsafe. Continuing, though, and I can't give credit to this to me entirely. I have to say to everyone, you got to check out when you get an opportunity, subscribe on YouTube, and also give a follow on Twitter to Ohio Racing Media. He does, obviously, racing videos in the state of Ohio, in particular Norwalk. You can expect him, I'm sure, at the NHRA National event this weekend. He pointed out on Twitter that Tucson Dragway is in the trailer, and this is what he was referring to. Matter of fact, I will pull down my logo so you can see it clearly. Right there, Tucson. distinct tower with the setting sun, the roadster, the cactus, and obviously TUCSO Tucson Dragway is in the trailer. But this is not the only spot. In fact, every time you see Blake Alexander's funny car and Bob Tasca's funny car, they are at Tucson. Another screenshot is of them being at Tucson is the shutdown area. I think I've got it ready to be loaded up. And in the shutdown area, you are looking at it and you're thinking to yourself, oh, this has to be Phoenix because it's a desert, it's surrounded by mountains. But notice, there's no walkway bridge at the end. This is Tucson. So, what other tracks are going to be in this game? You've got to wonder beyond the NHRA national event tracks. And Tucson is a likely candidate for a track to have a national event, especially after Phoenix goes away. Jim Hughes, the owner-operator, they are making improvements to that track. And it's a great track already, but they're making improvements. But it's already rendered in the game. So I'm curious, what other non-national event tracks could we see? Or the tracks that often have regional events, are you possibly going to be running that super modified class there instead of automatically going to places where national events run? Or maybe regionally, you've got a local track that you begin at before you ever go to a national event track. And maybe Tucson represents something like that. So I think overall, the game, and I'm going to bring up the cover, I think overall the game is a move forward in the right direction of progress for the NHRA. And this is why I state that. Look at the cover. Ron Capps, Erica Enders, Brittany Force. And then go back to the trailer footage. I'm not going to play it. But who was first shown in the trailer? It was actually Justin Ashley's car. John Force is not leading the way with the game. They have chosen younger individuals, such as Brittany, Erica, and Ron is younger, and they've even shown someone who has not won a championship, just has Rookie of the Year honors to his credit, and now 4 wins to kick off the footage in the trailer. Alex Laughlin has a prominent place in the trailer. I think that speaks volumes that this is a aimed push towards younger people and to get them to gravitate toward the younger stars that are in the NHRA. Not trying to move John Force out of the way. Definitely not saying that. But I think the marketing department gets that, hey, we have got to move forward beyond the brand that is John Force and what he's done for the sport. But you can't deny it. Destroy 1320. Will the tree be accurate? That is the biggest thing to me. Well, it looks like it will be. Again, they've got it in what apparently is not game footage, and it's shown accurate. But I think when the rollout comes, you're going to have the actual NHRA tree as we see. I do think that is going to be the case. Dujanay Bland says, I was just getting ready to say that. I wonder if this is a hint that they could be one of the new additions. I definitely think it is. I think it's a soft reveal, if you will, that is an expected next place for an NHRA national event. Well, we're still waiting on Lyle Barnett to come in. Again, ladies and gentlemen, it was kind of a flight permitted matter if he was able to come in or not. I might try to check in with him and see if he is able to come in, but we're going to move on and wait for him to come in, give him a little bit more time. We're going to move on to drag racing news. And there's a lot of good news out there in the drag racing world at this very moment. All right, to kick off drag racing news, I want you to know that this weekend, when there's a lot of drag racing, feel free to chime in the comment section where you know in your region what drag races are going on, what major events are going on. The PDRA, they will have their North versus South shootout at Maryland International Raceway. And I want to give you my picks right now concerning the PDRA. What a great event they had just a couple of weeks ago for the American Door Slammer Challenge at Norwalk, where the NHRA will be this weekend. I think Jim Halsey will come back to win Pro Nitrous. You cannot keep him and Switzer down very long. I think they're going to come out swinging. They're going to come out and claim another win, another 660 man in the PDRA, and re-establish dominance there in Pro Nitrous. In Pro Boost, I think Melanie Salemi, she has had the top performing car, and she just has not had the round wins to show it. But she has been creeping on a win and made the final at the American Door Slammer Challenge and came up just shy of her first 2022 win in PDRA competition. I think Melanie Salemi, with the great performance they have and the driving all comes together, and she gets the win in Maryland. And then J.R. Carr, he's out of his own way. He's in the groove. The mojo is flowing. I think he will pick up the win in Extreme Pro Stock. I think that will happen there at the PDRA. Well, the NHRA, National Hot Rod Association, they roll into the land of $1 per pound ice cream. Summit Racing Equipment Motorsports Park there in Norwalk, the house that the Baders built. And my picks for this weekend, after what I think was a great Bristol event, I'm going to keep riding the Torrance horse until he wins a race. So Torrance in Top Fuel. I think Cruz Petragon will defend his race title from last year, and he will again pick up the win in Norwalk, and they begin to ride well in the heat where they feel most accustomed to competing at a high level. Greg Anderson, long-time Summit-sponsored individual and team. He will, and still is actually, just not in a major primary fashion. He will pick up the win. Also his 100th win at Norwalk. And then Karen Stouffer will continue the narrative, but for the ladies, and do a little bit more silencing on the Matt Smith and Steve Johnson narrative in Pro Stock Motorcycle. So PDRA at Maryland International Raceway, then NHRA is at Norwalk, and then the event that I will be attending this weekend is Southeast Gassers Association. They are going to be at Farmington Dragway, which is Mocksville, North Carolina, and that is north of the Charlotte area. That's going to be happening this weekend, and the gear jamming, wheel standing action of these drag racing reenactors, if you have not seen them in action, you definitely need to see them in action. But they also are going to have an added addition. Quayne Stott has been working on for a while, and he's expressed this even on Between the Slicks and Competition Plus Power Hour, that they've been working on adding motorcycles. Well, it's finally going to happen. They're going to have exhibition runs performed by Chris Raziel. I believe I'm saying that correctly. And his 1967 vintage motorcycle drag racer. What a beautiful and stunning machine that is. And that's what they looked like back in the day. And that's going to be a part of the show at the Southeast Gasser Association with all the other great cars and competition that they have. And yes, you can expect footage from that event on Monday Morning Racer sometime next week on the Monday Morning Racer YouTube channel. So be sure to subscribe there. Well, we're not done. Last bit of drag racing news dropped today. Megan Meyer hinted at big news coming. Megan Meyer will make a return to competition, and in a place that you might not expect. She's not going to be doing it in the NHRA. She is going to be coming back for Eddyville's Night of Fire to make match racing runs against fellow Meyer teammate Matt Sackman. And if you're not familiar with who that is, you probably should be. He's actually a crew member on Antron Brown's car. And if you look at the footage I got from the Virginia Nationals testing session the Monday after the event, well, he was in Antron's car and testing the Top Fuel dragster. So he has his Top Fuel license and A Fuel and so on, and he has competed and won in A Fuel before. But he and Megan will be competing in the Eddyville Night of Fire. And she also announced not only will she be competing in the Eddyville Night of Fire, but she will be at Nitro Chaos. So that brand that I'm associated with, she will be racing at the third ever Nitro Chaos event, the second Nitro Chaos event for the year of 2022. Mocan Dragway's 60th anniversary celebration. This is going to be a big time. Big Daddy Don Garlis is going to be there. Megan Meyer is going to be there. Several other hard-hitting, nitro-burning cars are going to be there. So Megan Meyer, the two-time NHRA champ in alcohol dragster, will be at Eddyville Night of Fire for some match racing, and then Nitro Chaos for heads-up racing in that Run What You Brung, as long as you're burning nitro competition. Now, with that said, the rules of Nitro Chaos obviously are not the rules that NHRA has stipulated on a fuel dragster. In Nitro Chaos, you must at least be burning 80% nitro in the tank. So you could have 80-20 to methanol, or you could run 100% nitromethane, though that's actually not the best thing to do. And there's chemistry behind that, why that's not the case. But it must be 80% or more. Well, you look at the rule book and A Fuel, they're not running 80%. So this is going to be interesting to see what Randy Meyer can cook up, if you will, in the performance department under a slightly different rule package with an A Fuel dragster. Many of us that have attended these Nitro Chaos events, we have said this is the perfect place for A Fuel to come and compete and very well dominate. Right now, in Nitro Chaos competition, there's only been two. We have had a Top Fuel dragster win in Scott Palmer. We have had a Nitro Fuel altered win in Jody Austin and his Bushwhacker. And very well, the potential is there for Megan Meyer to come in and steal the show at Nitro Chaos with an A Fuel combination. It is going to be interesting to see. And again, Chris Graves just promoting and creating drag racing dreams into reality, because we are going to see A Fuel dragsters against front engine dragsters, against fuel alters, against nitro floppers, against injected nitro front engine dragsters, supercharged ones. It is going to be a fabulous time there in Asbury, I believe it is, Missouri, right there to the Kansas border. And if you don't have any plans that coming weekend, you need to be there for sure. Well, that's what I've got for drag racing news. Let's dive into the comments section really quick. Still waiting on Lyle Barnett. We might not be able to get him again. He said that it might be an issue with the flight. It can, those things happen, and I lined him up, and he's like, hey, there might be an issue with the flight if I get behind. But if we don't have him this weekend, this week, we'll definitely have him another time. We'll definitely miss that he's not here. That is for sure. But we'll get him another time. We definitely get him another time. Let's go to the comment section really quick. We'll start with Sam Smith. Slammin' Sam is the best. Yes, he is. Yes, he is. Other than on the Competition Plus Power Hour. Mikey chimes in and says, have you talked about Stevie switching to the screw blower? Well, no, I haven't. And I find that interesting. His post was basically, hey, with the combination we were running, it's not fair and parity is not actually there. Therefore, we're going to switch combinations and go out there and show them that this other combination isn't going to work properly and it's actually we don't have parity. It's going to be interesting to see. I cannot remember at Virginia what the situation was like in the semifinals and what all was represented. If I remember correctly, it was 2 nitrous cars, a pro-charged car, and 1 supercharged car, of which combination I don't remember the superchargers. But if he feels like he's got to make that combination to be competitive, you know that Stevie's going to be making a statement no matter what, on and off the track, just like Ricky does, to play the rule book and get the rule book swayed in whatever way. That's the interesting thing about the parity challenges is, well, who can get enough voice, mustered up to have changes made and lobby for it. And I feel like there's fairly good parity right now in NHRA Pro Mod, but I'm not a competitor. I'm not behind the wheel. I'm not the one in frustration getting out of the car saying, well, we've got to do that much more on the light because we're that far behind in performance, and there's really no way unless things are atmospherically perfect that we can compete. I'm not in that situation. Stevie is. But he did make that statement. He did make that switch. Let's see. Chris Batty. Hey, congratulations, Chris. He won in the Wolf Pump Seafield at Cordova. Are you going to be at Funny Car Chaos at Eddyville Raceway Park? I am at every Chaos event. Every Chaos event. So if it's Nitro Chaos, if it's Funny Car Chaos, I am there, Lord willing, unless something drastic has happened. Kenny says that is a beautiful bike. Yes, sir, it definitely is a beautiful bike, and it's going to be fascinating to see something that, well, it's hard to find like footage on YouTube. It can be challenging to find good footage of old motorcycle drag racing. So it's going to be very interesting to see a nostalgia drag bike in person. I don't think I've ever seen one. So I think that does add something to the Southeast Gasser Association show. Not that it needed anything added, but it is definitely a good addition. Sam Smith says, guess my time there is done. Well, man, I don't think your time there is done, and definitely got a good thing going on over there. Hey, could you text Lyle for me and see if he's off the plane or not? Dennis says hello from Long Island. Hello, Dennis. Hope you're doing well. He says, thank you on that. It was only the second race I've ever ran in Funny Car Chaos. So, yes, later on, actually tonight, you'll see the interview on Funny Car Chaos with Chris Batty and his Batmobile is what he calls his funny car. I mean, definitely fitting for a guy with the last name Batty. And his win in the C Field at Funny Car Chaos Cordova. So be on the lookout for that. It'll be eventually shared to the Monday Morning Racer platform as well. All right, ladies and gentlemen. Well, look, feel free to chime in. I'm going to take a quick break, see if we can figure out if Lyle is off a plane or not, or what's going on, and go from there. But while we take this break, get this word in from Power Built Tools. Feel free to chime in. Let's talk some drag racing, at least up to a full hour here tonight on Between the Slicks, unless we do get Lyle Barnett in. And again, if we don't get him in tonight, flight permitting, I did say that in the comments, in the posts, then we'll get him another time for sure. This word from Power Built Tools. Power-Built Tools exemplifies innovation in the tool industry. From hand tools, power tools, and even tool storage. Check out powerbuilt.com for Power-Built Tools. And remember, use promo code MMR15 for 15% off at purchase. All right. So it does appear at the moment that that flight did get delayed, and you just never know these flights. The airline industry, sometimes you just cannot rely on it. But we will definitely have Lyle Barnett another time, and we've had him on the Competition Plus Power Hour before, and he also is regularly on Drag Illustrated. He does a great job for himself and for the Pro Mod class overall of getting on shows, talking and communicating, and just representing drag racing. What a fascinating story he has with what he went through and the injuries that he had happened to him, and moving beyond, now coming back, winning at the highest level. And what I definitely love about Lyle Barnett is he's not just racing at the highest level. So he races what they're calling Red Velvet, this turbo-powered pro mod, and he has won in it, had a great run at the end of last year, and has competed very well so far this year. He's actually sitting 4th in points in NHRA competition. But he also races this thing called Beer Money. Old Fox Body Mustang goes out to, the back of the track and no prep style events and races there as well. And I believe, honestly, you look at his social media, he's racing Beer Money way more often than he is Red Velvet. And oftentimes they are going and they're making final rounds, and they are winning, and Beer Money is making a lot more than just beer money. And I was looking forward to chatting with him, honestly, more about Beer Money than the Pro Mod. There's even a little bit of controversy on his social media, Lyle Barnett Racing, that some folks are like, hey, you didn't gap me, but there's clearly air between the two cars. And he's like, what more do you got to have to call it a gap? There's a gap. I can see between the cars. You got gapped. So in the comments, what do you think being gapped means? What is, they handed down the Gapplebees. Like, what level is that? Applebee's is open late. So maybe Gapplebees means like you had a lot on them. Gap train. What is a gap in the terminology of drag racing? What do you think when you hear gap? Going to the comment section really quick. Oh, will we see Farmington Dragway for Sega? Yes, I will be there, David. I will be there. Looking forward to it. Hey, we got him. Let's bring him in.
Sorry,
Lyle.
man.
Oh, you're good. You're good, man. Obviously, you're there at Norwalk. How was the flight?
Actually, it wasn't bad, man. Had a pretty good pilot. He's got the same amount of takeoffs as he does landings, so that's always good.
There you go. That is good for sure. What airline, or did you get hooked up with like the private elite?
But, we're cool, but we're not that cool. Nah, good old American Airlines, man. We got here on time. Everything was good. I actually looked down at my phone and saw your email and realized I was about 20 minutes late. So here I am.
Oh, you're fine, man. Look, been having a good time, and here talking with folks in the chat about drag racing. And hey, I mentioned right as you were coming on, you've got a little definition controversy going on your social media on what a gap is. So, like, are we going to get any solidarity in the back of the track world on what a gap and Gapplebees and gapping is?
Well, I mean, my boy is just in denial. The definition of a gap is any space between the winning car's rear bumper and the losing car's front bumper, whether it's 1 inch or 1 mile, that is a gap. Him being in denial, he's trying to say that the gap has to be a full car. That's not the case. But I'm letting him tell his story however he wants to tell it. I know my win light came on, and that's all that matters.
I mean, the picture, it might not be a full car, but it's definitely a smart car gap size.
Smart car.
I mean, there is gap right there.
That's almost a fully extended parachute. It hasn't blossomed yet, but it is definitely fully extended. So he can tell the story however he wants. But I know that at the end of the night, he brought that wad of cash over to me and handed it to me. So
there you go. That's what matters. That's what matters. So rolling into the NHRA event, and do want to talk a little bit about NHRA, but then want to actually get beyond that. I think far more interesting things are happening with Lyle Barnett beyond the NHRA, though. Great run at the end of last year. You're sitting 4th in points right now. I imagine you feel like you probably left a little bit on the table at Virginia, and you want to get a lot of it back in Norwalk.
Yeah, we left a little bit on the table. Well, I did. We ran low for race day when I turned it red, and that hurts when you're second in the points. Chris Thorne's had a pretty good start to the year, so he won Gainesville in a pretty clustered, what-ish final round at Charlotte. He edged me out by 300ths. We got the runner up to him in Charlotte. So he had a pretty substantial lead, but Virginia, I had an opportunity to really make up some ground, and I'm running Stevie Fast Jackson for the first time in competition in my career. It's the first time we've ever lined up side by side. I went on the radio when I was under the tower, and I told Justin, my crew chief, Justin Elks, who owns Modern Racing there in Modern where I work. I told him, I said, dude, I've never been this jacked up for any round of racing, especially in the NHRA Pro Mod. He was like, man, just another round. And I blame part of the red light on just me being fired up. And the other half of it, we had to change transmissions between Q2 and Q3. We didn't get Q3. So I went into E1 with a brand new transmission, and it just bumped a little deeper than I normally do. And it's the same in Pro Stock, probably more so in Pro Stock than in Pro Mod. But as drivers, you have to be on the very edge, and we're super dependent on how deep and shallow we are. And I was say I was a little bit deeper. I was like 3 or 4 inches at most deeper, and it was a difference in 007 red and 007 green probably. And it sucks, man. I was throwing my shit around. Stevie is a 2-time champion. Not somebody you don't want to lose to anybody, but when you're up beside a 2-time champion, you definitely want to give it your best. And we went low for race day, and I threw it away, and it still hurts, man. I know how many times I've lost on a hole shot in my career, and I could probably tell you how many times I've turned one red and lost. And that one's, that one's going to resonate for a while. It's when you're out here trying to do this for a living and your performance depends on sponsorship dollars and this, that, and the other, it hurt, man. But you gotta, we're here in Norwalk, and when I roll up for E1 on Sunday, whether I qualify 12th or 2nd, you got to forget about that, and you got to go up there and do your job. It takes a full team effort to win, especially over here in the NHRA and Pro Mod, and I just got to go up there and do my job. It's tough, but it's what you got to do.
Did you compete? Have you competed there at all in Norwalk in Pro Mod, or is this the first trip in the Pro Mod? I can't remember.
I was here last year.
Okay.
When I was here last year, though, I was in the Pro Charge car. And after they made the big rule change early in the year, we never really quite found our mojo again. So I don't know if I won or lost here first round last year. I can't remember. but I didn't pick up the turbo car obviously until we went to Dallas. That was my first race in the turbo car and our first win of my pro mod career period. But so this is also where I won beer money. Not many people remember that, but in 2018 we ran Horsepower Wars right here in Norwalk. So my first trip ever to Summit Motorsports Park, we won Horsepower Wars Season 1 and took beer money home, which obviously is a car that I still race today. So I have some history here. I'm 1-1. I've won a race here and I've lost a race here. So we're hoping to keep the win side of the bracket up when we leave here on Sunday. So we'll see how it goes.
So Destroyer 1320 in the comments, he's like, "Hey Lyle, what is your beard oil of choice?" Yes, the beard's looking good, man.
Well, I appreciate that. So there's a company online, you can look them up, called the Burley Boar, Burly, Burley Boar. A buddy of mine, Steve, he's actually from Charlotte, makes oil. I use some of his stuff, and to be honest, I started making my own not too long ago, and so it just depends. If I've had time to make my own, I make my own. If not, I pull out some of Steve's Burley Boar and I lather up. The biggest thing, if I give you any beard growing tips, when you get out of the shower, I don't care if it's 2 o'clock in the morning and you just want to go to bed, get your wife or your girlfriend's or your own blow dryer. Get your blow dryer out and your brush and blow dry the water out of it. It keeps it from matting up and holding in moisture and bacteria and whatnot. You can look it up. There's all kinds of, you can go down this rabbit hole as long as you want to. But a blow dryer is your best friend if you've got a beard much over a couple inches. So that's the best advice I can give you in growing a beard.
And that segment brought to you by Monday Morning Racer's beard. No. All right. Well, man, big event in your life. You've had a lot happen in your life, a lot of wins and some interesting tragedies, but what a great moment in you're a dad now. So
I am, dude.
You got a little boy.
I've got a little boy at home. Nash is his name. And he was 3 weeks old. Today's Thursday. 3 weeks old today. It's been quite the adjustment. Any of you out there who have had kids or maybe will in the future, if you've had them, then you know where I'm at. I'm 3 weeks in. I've slept. I'm going to sleep more while I'm here in Norwalk than I have in the past 3 weeks, and I leave Monday. So, it's just one of those adjustment deals, right? It's part of becoming a parent and bringing a child into this world, as scary as that is today. But my wife and I are super excited. We've had tons of support from family, friends, all of you on social media, and I obviously appreciate that. It's new to us, but we're slowly but surely figuring it out. So will he be in a junior dragster one day? If that's what he wants to do, 100%. My goal is to get him kicking a football as soon as he can. And hopefully find his way into the NFL so that myself as a grandpa one day and a dad can retire early and we can drag race on some NFL dollars. But those are big dreams, but that's my plan.
Golf, Lyle, golf. Clubs.
Look, I've played enough golf in my time to be dangerous, and that gets expensive when you start snapping those $200 and $300 clubs over your knees. So I'm going to try to steer him clear of golf.
Definitely. And it's interesting you bring up that comment. Hey, if he wants to get into junior, fine, great. Because I did want to ask, you become a parent, and that's going to begin changing your outlook on life. And I'm sure you're already thinking even differently. Like, wow, man, life's a lot different, and even adjusting. And is there any sense of you, like, I'll take myself as example. I've always thought I have a football injury from playing football. And I'm like, man, I'm not interested in pushing a son or a daughter of mine like directly into sports because of my experience. And you've been through a lot in racing. Yeah. Or you have the same mentality. Like, I don't know if I want to push my son, push a daughter in that way, or just let it naturally happen.
I mean, he's not going to have a choice, right, but to be involved, because when he becomes of age, I'm still going to be involved in the sport. You know, if there's anybody, yeah, I mean, I'm not saying that I've done it more so, but if there's anybody that has showed their love and passion for the sport, you know, I think I've been there and I've done that, you know, and I think that when my son becomes of age to know and understand what we're doing, he will at least be exposed enough to be able to make his own decision. I'm not going to force it on him, you know. It would be cheaper for me if he decided not to do it. But, you know, if it's something he wants to do, which my dad did it, he brought me into the sport, and here we are about to start. You know, I don't know how many national events this is for me, 9 plus, so at least the 12th or 13th national event for me, you know, so I have a feeling I know where I'm going to end up one day, but, you know, I think it's one of those deals, in my opinion, that you introduce them to it and you allow them to make their own decision. If this is what they want to do, that's fine. If it's not what they want to do, I'm going to support him no matter what he decides to do. You know, so I hope it's here. You know, I've made a lot of good friends. Some of my best friends in this entire world are right here in these pits, and it's an awesome community to be associated with. You know, he won't be able to afford to do anything else in his life if he gets associated in the sport of drag racing. I can promise you that.
There you go.
You know, so this has been a blessing in disguise for me. I was a loose cannon when I was 24 years old. You know, I was drinking and doing all the things, you know, and the good Lord has different ways to get your attention, you know, and like you said earlier, in 2015, I almost lost my life doing what I love, and we've battled back, and we're competing at the highest level of door slammer drag racing that there is to offer. So I'm super thankful, especially for the opportunity. My dad and my family has provided me with some of the best equipment that money could buy. My dad's the sole reason that I'm able to do what I'm doing today and race in the NHRA. We've won 2 Wallies together, and I've got my sights set on the championship. We're 4th in the points right now, you know, and I feel like we're going into a good time of the year that the turbo car can really shine. You know, this particular class is kind of it's really dependent on air quality, and it favors certain combinations, and we're headed into one of the hottest times of the year, and the nastier and the dirtier the air is, the better the turbo car runs. So I'm gonna try to get some of my points back and see if we can't make a run at this championship.
So, you know, mention parity. Do you think there is any validity to Stevie Fast Jackson's statement today of making a switch because they're behind, and,
Yep.
you know, showcase, hey, there's actually not parity. We're going to show you that there's not, because we're going to go this combination and go whip some tail. So,
yeah, and you know, Stan Shelton's the only one that has brought the screw blower out. You know, and Stan has a great program. They haven't been screw blower racing quite as long as Stevie and his crew have. So I suspect there will be a rule change for the screw blower program on Monday. Reports out of Dragway 42 are that Stevie ran really well in some pretty crappy air. And I think the air quality here will not be much better, if any better at all. And I think you're going to see Stevie really shine here. So, you know, that there's a benefit to a team like Bahrain 1. They've got every combination. You think about that, except turbo. They have every combination. They've got a nitrous car, they have a roots car, they have a pro charge car, and they have a screw car. And they're getting data on all 4 combinations. Nobody else runs a turbo car because they're not dumb enough. We're just hard-headed enough, and I love turbo cars. You know that. The rest of the world knows that turbo cars are does Lyle prefer turbo? Yes, I do. And I prefer it because of the challenge to drive the car. If you talk to anybody who has driven a big tire turbo car, they are the hardest combination to drive. And I like the challenge, you know, and obviously we've done very well. As long as I can hold on to the turbo combo, I'm going to hold on to it. If the NHRA doesn't make some parity adjustments soon, the turbo car is just not going to be able to get it done. And you may see us switch to a screw car. But for now, I'm going to hang on to the turbos as long as I can. I love them. Like I said, just the challenge to drive the car. They're a challenge to stage, and they are a challenge to drive from about 200 feet on. So As long as they even stay remotely competitive, you're going to see me in a turbo car as long as I can afford to do it.
Well, man, I appreciate that because I love seeing at least one representative of every power adder in a field if it is a combined type of situation. So keep championing the turbo for sure. And look, you've performed well in it. Your team's doing well in it, and that car has a proven history of doing well. And I mean, in fact, holding, I believe it's the speed record. It still holds the speed
to
record.
This day.
So,
Yep.
So, that machine has got a track history, and y'all keep it on track and keep making more history with it for sure. So about 2 weeks ago, I was in Eddyville, Iowa, and Warren Evans turns to me. We're in the motel room, and he's like, Ronnie Hobbs was killed. And I'm like, who? That guy? No. And kind of described what happened. And you work at a race shop. I'm curious, amongst pro mod drivers, door slammer drivers, when there's a situation like that and it reverberates and the news gets out, do y'all begin looking at your ride and going, what else can we do to make this sustainable with what we're doing?
Yeah, I work at one of the premier pro mod. I don't want to say repair shops. I work at one of the premier drag racing and in particular pro mod and pro stock all around car shops in the world. Justin Elks has built a really nice shop there, and we do great. None of it's done by me, but they do great work. But Ronnie's wreck in particular is something that is super rare and just, man, unfortunately, it's just not preventable. He took a pretty rough hit in an area that you just don't normally see a car take a hit in, and at the end of the day, the cars are just so freaking fast now, man, and I think at some point we've got to take a step back and start looking at a more rigorous licensing. I'm not saying Ronnie Hobbs did anything wrong, so please don't say that I'm blaming this on Ronnie, because God bless his soul, we lost him, and he was great for the sport, and we're all going to miss him, but I think there is a time that comes that we start looking at a more rigorous licensing procedure, and there's more things that have to come into play. You can only make a car so safe before they become so fast that there's safety can't prevent the inevitable, right? So it's a super unfortunate deal, man. I feel it's bad for the Gallegos family. That they had to, he saw that right in the face of his windshield, and it's just a sad deal, man. I hope that they continue on. We fixed the Gallegos car at Modern, and they are scheduled to race that thing in the next Midwest Drag Racing Series race, and it will be obviously an honor and in tribute to Ronnie. And drag racing as a whole has had a rough year. We lost Bruton Smith yesterday, who is a pioneer for the sport. It's been a pretty tough couple months, man, and you hate to see anybody lose their life in competition, but it's when we strap into these cars, man, we take that risk. I've always said, when you sign that paper at the gate, you're signing up for the chance that you're not going to leave there, and it's what makes this sport exciting. And it's the risk that we take as drivers, so our thoughts and condolences go out to the Hobbs family. It's a sad deal,
and we lost Lyle right there, just clicked out. So we'll see if we get him back. I do got a few more questions with him. Just clicked out, lost him. So, wow, I thought we had a very good discussion going there. And yes, definitely condolences once again to Ronnie Hobbs and his family. And you just have to wonder with competitors, situations like that. And I think Lyle puts it in perspective that it was so rare what did happen that it almost seems unpreventable. And I think back to a scenario with Funny Car Chaos, Ken Singleton, and the fire that he had at the Texas Motorplex. It's one of those situations where everyone onlooking is like, this is an alcohol funny car. This is not supposed to happen. He's not running nitromethane. And it did happen, and it did occur. And racing and motorsports tends to prove that freak accidents are rather common occurrences. So, yeah, we're having a good discussion there with Lyle. Hopefully we'll see him back in a few moments. Just clicked out, just dropped out. And we'll get to beer money. I definitely want to get to beer money. I think that's the far more fascinating angle and discussion with Lyle is, in fact, beer money, the car that he mentioned he won there at Norwalk, and they have continued to modify and advance and make improvements on. And here he is, Victory Lane at Rockingham with beer money, does a lot of the back of the track, no prep type of events. And he is racing in this thing regularly, oftentimes more so than the Pro Mod. So it, I think, is almost a bigger story than NHRA Pro Mod itself and what he's doing there. And it's fascinating. And they've definitely been earning more than just beer money with beer money. Well, while we wait and see if we do get Lyle back, let me make note that Tim Wilkerson this weekend at NHRA national event, their Summit Racing Equipment Motorsports Park, it's a mouthful, will have a Trick Flow livery, which is outstanding, looks good. I really like the look of this funny car. I imagine in person, this white and kind of purple and blue and the orange of the Trick Flow specialties, it is a solid looking funny car for sure. And I definitely hope that Tim has a good weekend. He had a good weekend at Bristol, and hopefully he can improve upon it just one more and get a win in Norwalk. Love seeing Tim win. And Summit, with bringing this up, it's interesting. I don't know who I'm going to get to talk to at Summit, or who has a primary. Like this weekend, Clay Millican has a primary with Summit, but Summit has changed their marketing strategy. So for how many years did we see Jason Line and Greg Anderson? They were the Summit cars. And there was like no one else. And that's where the Summit brand was. And what Summit car is going to win on Sunday in NHRA Pro Stock? Well, that's not the case now. Yes, Summit is still with KB Racing. They're actually still on Greg Anderson's car, but not in a primary role. You do see them, though, on many other cars, such as Tim Wilkerson. They're on the spill plate. They actually are on Dale Creasy's car. They are a primary this weekend with Clay Millican, but when they're not the primary, they're an associate on the car. So they have definitely expanded their portfolio to be on more cars than just two or one. So an interesting shift in their marketing in the drag racing world. Kenny Trent, he says, well, beer money is something you can drag to most any track and run. Yes, that's exactly right. And it fits well and does well in these back of the track, no prep type of situations, which it's definitely set up for. And they have been getting the job done in that world all up and down the road, no matter what track they're going to. Darlington, Rockingham, Thunder Mountain, out in the middle of nowhere places, and maybe even on the street. You never know. But beer money has been racking up some cases for the guys. Let's just put it that way. Also, this weekend in sponsorship news at Norwalk, as we wait, we see if we get Lyle back or not. Camry Caruso will have Kings of Vapor on the door this weekend, and they have been associated with the team before this event, as I recall, but they are stepping up as a primary, being on the side of the door going into Norwalk. So if you're the vaping type, check out Kings of Vapor. They do have brick and mortar stores, from what I understand, but they do also have an online presence, an online store. But that is interesting that, well, tobacco, no, but yet vaping can get some sponsorship in. Very interesting, very interesting. And I know the two are not the same. They don't equate, well, equally. But it's interesting that vaping can get a little bit more of a presence, can be on the side of the door of a car, and can put its marketing dollars behind such an effort in NHRA drag racing. So while we wait, see if Lyle does pop back in here, maybe he lost signal, or maybe something on my side kicked him, or maybe the battery went dead for all we know. We'll give just a few more moments and see what happens with Lyle and see if he's able to pop back in or not, because I haven't got a message on the phone and I haven't got an email either. So let me see what happens here tonight. So any other things that you all would want to talk about tonight in the world of drag racing, feel free, put them in the comments section. I'm going to take another break. We'll see if we get Lyle back in and move on with Between the Slicks. Look, this word from Hero Soap Company.
Hero Soap Company is a veteran-owned establishment that produces all-natural, essential oils-infused soap that is sold with a portion of the proceeds supporting other veteran groups. Hero Soap Company. Heroes supporting heroes. Be a hero yourself and buy a bar and let freedom clean.
Well, we haven't had Lyle pop back in as of yet, and we're looking at a weekend that is full of drag racing from North Carolina to Maryland, Norwalk, and beyond elsewhere to your local track. Eventually, when the NHRA games come out, we'll be able to drag race anytime we want. That's going to be a great time on whatever platform that you are going to get it on. I hope that it releases right when I hope it releases on PC right when everything else releases. I have, like right now, if you go to steam.com, it was not on the platform the last time I checked for like pre-order, and I hope that does change. I hope we do get to a situation where it is ready for pre-order soon, even on Steam for the PC. I don't want to buy a console. I've got my PC, want to stick with it. I do iRacing, then do the NHRA game. Now, one point I did forget, I knew about it, Drag Racing Central reminded me in the comments section, is I do think it is a big miss. Granted, they can patch it in later. I get that, but I do think it is a big miss that it does not have online multiplayer right away. I have got to a point when it comes to games, whether that's military strategy games, which I do enjoy playing, or other simulation type games, such as I enjoy playing railroad simulation games. Well, if they don't have a multiplayer function, I am more than likely not going to buy it. I want to be able to play not against AI, but other humans. And I'm sure that one of the reasons you want an NHRA game in the modern day that we're in, with the capacities and capabilities that we have, is that you can line up against your buddy on the other side of the world or next door and see who has the better reaction time, see who has the better tuning capability, see who gets the job done in and on the racetrack in an electronic form. So that is a downer for sure. Kenny Trent says, thinking about trying to be at Southeast Gassers race this weekend. I'm about 42 miles from there. Rain is being called for the area from what I see. Look, man, in the Southeast, if you live in the area, you know as well as I do. You know as well as I do that scattered thunderstorms can be one of the most, and it may not be scattered. I haven't looked at the forecast, but like today and tomorrow and where I live in the upstate of South Carolina, scattered thunderstorms, scattered thunder showers, however you want to phrase it, they are so frustrating because you've got this bright, beautiful day, some puffy clouds in the sky, and then like it just flips and it is dark and overcast and like the storm of the century is rolling in. So hopefully that's not the case and we get the race in there at Farmington Dragway for the Southeast Gasser Association. And I tell you what, let me as we're waiting on for Lyle and see if we do get him back in, I'll go at least to 9:30 and see what happens. Some interesting developments have taken place with Destroyer 1320, the actual sponsor of this show, destroyer1320.com, and you can get the TDS, as you see the commercial, the theft deterrent system. He purchased himself a dart, and it is one heck of a cool machine. I'm going to send him a link. We're going to get him on. We'll talk with him about the dart that he's purchased and what he's doing and what he's got to do to get that thing on track. He had this beautiful Destroyer 1320 Challenger, or excuse me, 1320 Challenger that was Destroyer gray. He sold it, bought a truck, a Dodge, a Ram truck, and got a drag car, an old dart, and he's fixing it up. So while we're waiting on Lyle, I'm going to send him a link if I can find his email, and we'll go from there. I tell you what, Destroyer 1320, email me real quickly, and I will get you a link to you. Okay, so email me, and then we will get you on, and we'll chat with you about your dart and what's going on in the world there. And he's in Phoenix. Be an interesting conversation about what folks are saying with what will be the loss of Wild Horse Pass Motorsports Park. Man, that is a tough one to get out and get it right. Wild Horse Pass Motorsports Park. It's just like Summit Racing Equipment Motorsports Parks. Some of these places have got to think about these names. Like, let's whittle them down. I think of Louisville. It's the KFC Yum Center or something like that. I'm like, why did you have to throw Yum in there? Just be the KFC Center. Just be Kentucky Fried Chicken, for goodness sakes. Oh, I tell you. Marketing. Fascinating world. Fascinating world. Well, we'll get Destroyer 1320 in here. We'll talk for a few more moments, see if Lyle does jump in. And if not, we will catch him later. Because, again, I didn't get to where I really wanted to get to. That was beer money. I want to talk about back of the track and that type of movement. Because I really am impressed by the back of the track movement, because it is very much so modern day hot rodding. The only thing I wish they would fix is like the whole flashlight start thing. I still don't get it. And, if the crack is back, the back tire is cracked and before the light or whatever, you can't anticipate the light. Some of those things I think are funky, are weird, but the scene is interesting in that they are taking, yes, oftentimes it's Fox body Mustangs, but I have seen many other machines out there, machines you don't see anywhere else, and they're throwing 2 turbos on it or a bunch of nitrous, and they're trying to get down a track, such as you can see on the Monday Morning Racer YouTube channel at Darlington Dragway, the first ever back of the track race there, put on by Corey Stamper and his Spooled Media. They put it on, and what a fabulous show it was on the back of the track. I mean, there was like no grip. There was nothing. There was no rubber. There was no glue. There was nothing for them to hook up to. And it was fascinating to see those type of individuals trying to hook up and get down the track. So, Eric, how's it going, man?
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. You can hear me, Eric. Pronounce your last name for us. I want to make sure it's right.
Bensen.
There we go. Eric, And man, I haven't talked to you on the phone or over the interwebs about your recent purchases and additions, except for just making a comment or two. But wow, you sold your beloved Challenger 1320.
Yes, sir, I did. Uh, Oddly enough, it was one of those things. I've had some crazy stuff happen in my family lately, and lost one of my uncles who was like the patriarch of the family, and got me into cars and racing and Mopars especially. And it's been several months since we lost him, and I was flipping through on Facebook, and something popped up, and it said, "Life's too short, buy the drag car." And I did. I was like, "That's it. I'm doing it." You only get a short time here, so why not, do what your passion is?
Here's your sign.
Here's your sign. You're damn exactly right. And so I traded my car. Here's the behind the scenes. I traded my car keys for a 2018 Dodge Ram Power Wagon with low miles.
Okay.
And the reason was so that I could hook a trailer to it and I could haul. Yes, that is the car that started my channel, Destroyer 1320. It was a 1320 Challenger. One of those, I saw Leah Pritchett jump out of it in the reveal and was like, I have to have one of those cars, because it was not insane and not crazy priced like a Hellcat. It was a naturally aspirated machine that I felt I could pilot, having owned two RTs before that and built them and was racing those. And what a difference. That car really got me hooked into the drag race lifestyle of, okay, that's it. I want to go to the track every and any time I can.
But then
you
buy the truck.
So I bought the truck. I got that home, and I'm like, okay, yeah, that's the truck. There is my Power Wagon right there. My wife lovingly calls it the he shed. If anybody has seen that commercial where Cheryl burnt down her she shed, that's the he shed. And eventually will become her truck, because hopefully things evolve and continue to evolve. But that's what's going to be hauling the drag car that I wanted to get. And I didn't know what car I was going to get. I love Mopars, and I love old school Mopars. That's what I grew up around and grew up in the back seat of, getting my head banged off the window, because my uncles had Hemis and, 6-pack everything. I mean, Chargers, Challenge. I mean, every type of Mopar there was. My favorite was the GTX. Sorry, GTX was a bad machine. Something about having a pistol grip 4-speed. Oh man, was that a bad car. But I always loved darts too. So searching the interwebs, I ended up finding a 71 Dodge Dart. And it's kind of a sad story, but the gentleman had passed away from COVID and was getting ready to race it this season. He was 80 years old. He was getting ready to race it this season, and he had done all the oil change. He did a whole bunch of work to it. He passed away before he got a chance to race it. So I am blessed to have the chance to purchase that car. And there are some things that I see that need to be updated from a safety standpoint. There it is. That is the Terminator, built by Hancock Racing out of Arizona and piloted by Dan Ryan. Not the Illinois Dan Ryan Freeway, but Dan Ryan. And I'm going to put a plaque in the back before I race it in honor of Dan Ryan. And this was the car that he was going to race this season. This is the one that I'm going to be piloting from here forward. And I want to run it a couple more times as the Terminator before I do my thing, which is customize and, make it my own. But that is going to be the flagship for Destroyer 1320 moving forward. I do have the TDS covers that are sold, and thank you, Lee, for everything you do for Destroyer1320.com. We so appreciate you, man. And I'm going to release probably 6 or 7 more covers here in the future. There are some things that are in the process. I keep saying it, but once it happens, it's going to be a landslide. And I want to help everyone from having their vehicles stolen if I can. And I do it at an affordable price. I sell these things for $35. I've not raised my price. And as you know, gas is high, everything is high, even the price of metal is high that I make these things out of. And I'm not going to raise my price, because for me, it's a no-brainer. If I can help one person that possibly could have had their car stolen, I did my job. And that's what the brand is about. So just saying, it's going to be fun. And then as I get into racing, I'll be able to hopefully find events. And that was something I had asked in the chat. What events do you have for someone who is getting into the sport? I kind of want to be around the 10-0 class with that car. What are some of the events or some of the associations that I could get involved with, maybe outside of the NHRA, that I can go and have a good time? And one of the things that's near and dear to my heart is to get that kid who goes, "What car is that?" and spark the bug in them so this sport keeps living on.
Well, that's definitely great aspirations there, and you're not doing it behind closed doors. People can follow you along on your own YouTube channel, because they may not understand the whole story, but it kind of all started with a YouTube channel and continued to progress. And you started your own company with the TDS, and people can find that at destroyer1320.com. But you have already begun showing some, well, at this point, it's almost more deconstructions instead of builds, but you've been showcasing some work already on the Dart.
Yes, exactly. There was a cage that had some suspect welds. One of those things where, first of all, it's running in the tens from what I was told. Until I get to the track, shake this thing down, I don't know. But I had to remove parts of the cage, get that done. When I purchased the car, there were some tubes in there for the rear tires. They're brand new rear tires. And so I was like, well, why would there be brand new rear tires on here and not these tubes in them that had the locking valve stems, where you have the nut on the valve stem? So upon further research, when we changed them out, they had tube in one tire and they had no tube in the other tire. And there was no bead locks on the other tire. So I'm like, good thing I didn't take it straight off the trailer and go try to race it, because probably could have spun it, maybe popped a tire, which
is a normal temptation. That is a normal temptation.
Oh my goodness. I have a new toy and I want to go have fun, man. Oh, for sure. But I want to do it safe. And luckily I have a friend of mine that owns Projet Nitrous in Arizona named Brian Collins. And he's been racing knee high to a grasshopper. He has raced everything, been sponsored, done a bunch of stuff. He currently has a Ford Mustang called Jarhead. He's retired Marine Corps. And I've learned so much from hanging out with him. And he is one of the ones who said, don't go take this thing and smack it, because you'll end up wrecking the car. Something may be wrong that you haven't looked at. So I'm starting from, snout to butt, going through this thing to make sure everything is up to snuff, that what they said was in the car is in the car. Everything that I'm opening up, I do on my channel. Just found some really cool stuff under the valve cover. Like, wow, I didn't know if they did or not. And so, yeah, it's been a learning experience. I cannot wait to get this thing to the track and see what it'll do, because once I learn the car, we get it straight, we make sure it stops, we make sure it's safe. I want to have so much damn fun with this thing. I want to take it to burnout competitions. I want to go all over the place. So it's going to be a drag car, but I may be the guy that they're like, why would you do that? Because what are we here for? We're here to have a good time and do what we love, which is race cars.
So you mentioned, possibly finding something out of the NHRA, burnout competitions. You're not looking at this as, this is going to be my way to NHRA Pro Stock. This is my toy. I'm going to make sure I have fun with it, and I'm going to do what the heck I want to with it.
Absolutely. There may be times where someone goes, you're just stupid. And I'll go, yes, sir, I am. Absolutely. Because I'm going to have the most fun. My point of being here is to have more fun than you. If I went out and did something that people go, what the heck? Yes, that's the point. And I'm sorry, but I'm a YouTuber. If I bring you entertainment, you're going to come watch what I'm doing. You're going to come check it out. You're going to find destroyer1320.com and see that, hey, I actually made a product that could save you $90,000 if someone doesn't push your car in a trailer. I mean, I don't know. I just see it as a win-win. And as I said, getting the young kids into this sport, into cars, into horsepower, man, that is just a dream of mine, to be able to pass this along and have some fun doing it,
Right, man. And what an interesting product you do have with the TDS. And it's the idea is so simple, yet they made it so simple to steal a car. So if you have a modern muscle car, just like you see in the commercial I play on here each and every show, you need to check out Eric's site, destroyer1320.com, and see what he's got for you. Be on the lookout for what is about to roll out. And make sure you go by his YouTube channel. Very interesting YouTube channel. Again, some builds going, a car drag racing channel, and he is at Destroyer1320. Give him a sub. And honestly, Eric, I was hoping I had planned to call you up and just do a show, period. And thank you for coming on and filling in for Lyle. Didn't get to where I wanted to get with Lyle about beer money, but we're having a good conversation with him, I think. And I imagine that he probably had the battery die and can't get signal back or something of that nature. But thank you for stepping in, and I'm going to let you go because I'm going to go. But thanks for coming on, man.
No problem, man. I'm going to get back to, by the way, I'm on vacation at Lake of the Ozarks and having a great old time out here. We caught 2-pound catfish today. So make sure you guys get outside and have some fun.
Have some fun. Have some fun. And if y'all need a boat dock, call me. Okay. Okay.
There you go.
All right, Eric. Thank you.
Appreciate you, Lee.
Folks, again, Eric, go follow him, Destroyer1320 on YouTube. Very interesting YouTube channel, and got some cool things going on. When he mentioned, he bought the drag car, I'm like, oh, that's so cool. So look, thank you all for hanging in there. We have not had Lyle pop back in. Phone must have went dead or can't find signal, or they needed to jump to something and get it done. He was there at the track at Norwalk, but I do thank you, Lyle, for your time, and we'll have to get you back on here another time and for part 2 and talk about beer money. Maybe we'll get to talk to him after a win, after Norwalk possibly. So to each and every one of you, thank you for hanging in there. Hit that like button for me on the way out, and tell folks about Between the Slicks on the Monday Morning Racer platform, because we do want to talk drag racing, and we want to talk about it with you, and we want to hear from people that may not get a voice regularly in the sport. More than likely next week, after going to Southeast Gassers this weekend, as long as they're able to race, depending on the forecast, as Kenny mentioned, we'll have a winner from the Southeast Gassers on, and you'll be able to see their race and hear from them and get to know them. And there are so many great characters in that series and beautiful cars in that series and such great competition. And that's not just Sega. It's Sega, Funny Car Chaos, into NHRA itself, IHRA, and beyond, the back of the track or the front of the track. So be sure, subscribe to Monday Morning Racer, hit that like button for me, share it. Be right back here Thursday night, 8 p.m. Eastern Time, where we're live and we're going to talk drag racing up with you. Until next time, God bless and keep the pedal